Our mission, Macomb County Community Mental Health, guided by the values, strength, and informed choices of the people we serve, provides quality services which promote recovery, community participation, self-sufficiency, and independence.
Thank you. Next is the adoption of the agenda. There was an addition that was sent to us this afternoon, if everyone has that. And it's on the screen in front of us. A motion to approve is in order.
So move, Burke.
Move to approve, Bush.
Motion by Bush, support by Burke. Any questions on the agenda? All in favor of adopting signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Agenda is adopted. Next is item number 4, hearing of the public. This is a time for the public to speak to us on anything regarding the agenda. Any items on the agenda that anyone from the public would like to address, please raise your hand in the box, or you can even literally raise it in front of your face so we can see you. Or speak up. If you don't have video on, it's important you unmute if you wanted to speak. Second call, would anyone like to address this board? And third call, I don't see anyone who's raised their hand. We'll move on to, there's another opportunity at the end of the meeting for public participation. So we'll move on to item number 5, which is the minutes from the regular meeting of the full board that was held on October 28 of 2020.
Move to adopt.
Support O'Connell.
Motion by Steer Materials, support by O'Connell. Any comments or questions on the minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Next is item number 6. However, there are no minutes prepared for us to approve, so we'll move on to item number 7, and that's request to approve Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Procurement Agreement, MA 2097 amendment. Dave, would you like to tell
Yes,
us what that's about, please?
it's just a very brief 2-page amendment to our PIHP contract that's increasing our Medicaid funding related to the direct care wage increases. So I just need board. It's gone through legal. They've approved it. So with board approval, I will sign it. It's sent over electronically for, an e-signature, but I am able to download a hard copy and then share that over with the office of the county executive as well for signature.
Okay, so motion to approve is in order.
So
Motion,
Support.
support, Phillips.
Motion by Sierra Materials, support by Phillips. Any questions?
I have a comment.
Yes, Tony?
The contractor box on this document shows Macomb County CMH as an authority. Has something happened different? I thought we could not be an authority.
we're not under authority.
We are not.
It's just a typo on their part. There's so many other authorities in the state. They just refer to us inappropriately. I can have them make a note of that when I respond.
Thank you.
Good catch, Tony. Anyone else? Okay, all in favor of approving the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is item number 8, and receive and file. I'm not aware of anything that we have. Did anything come in today? Dave or Sandy?
No.
Okay. And next is item number 9, resolutions, which we don't have any of those. Which leads us to item number 10, the voucher listing to pay the bills.
So moved, Burke. Support.
Support
Schmidt.
McGolden.
Motion by Burke, support by Nagovan. Any comments or questions on the list of vouchers? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, bills are approved. Next is the management report. And the first item that's listed here is Substance Use Disorder Director Helen Klinger is going to give a presentation. Helen?
Yeah, Helen, I will stop sharing.
Okay.
You have control.
All right, let me grab mine there. And here. All right, is it showing?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Well, good evening and thank you for having me tonight. I wanted to take some time and give you some more information on the Substance Use Division services. We've talked so far about the opiate health homes and some of the treatment services that we provide. So tonight I thought I would give you some overview of the prevention services that are part of our contract. So Substance Use Division receives block grant dollars for prevention services. And part of that requirement for the state is that 20% of all of the state substance use block grant monies have to go towards prevention services. So in our region, we start our allocation at the 20% of our block grant funding there so that we can have a variety of services to treat all age groups in our community. We also apply Public Act 2, the PA $2 for prevention services as well for service needs that aren't met by the block grant. So some of the requirements that we have for our prevention services is that they must be based on a formal local needs assessment. So we do that on an annual basis. We determine what our needs are and what services are warranted in our community, what are high risk areas, and what trends have we known to be present. Of our services, the state has a requirement that 90% of those services have to be evidence-based services. And so when we contract out our services with our provider network, we have a requirement that 100% of the services that they use must be based on an evidence-based prevention service model. So we want to make sure that the information going out is evidence-based, that it's valid, reliable, and data-driven. So we want to make sure the community is given proper and appropriate information. So our providers do a great job at using a real variety of different approaches in doing that. Another requirement we have is that we monitor and evaluate the prevention services at least on an annual basis. And we look to see what are we meeting the outcomes and the other indicators that we have achieved as it relates to the block grant requirements. So in our area, we have, some of you may already be very familiar because she's been with the agency for such a long time, Dawn Radziak. She's our prevention coordinator. She does a wonderful and terrific job. She's been with CMH for many years now. And also with her is Ricky also works with her as her assistant to help provide services and work with our prevention providers. So they do annual evaluations. They actually observe the presentations that are being given as part of that audit process. And they collect regular reports from the prevention programs, including things like pre-test and post-test from information that's been given to see if there's been any positive move in learning from, like, for example, a session that's been occurring at a particular topic. Just to give you a few examples there. Let's see, there we go. So when we contract out for our services, which is a requirement from the state, we contract with providers who are licensed by the state, by LARA, for a prevention service. They refer to that as a CATE license. It has the acronym is more for case finding, identification, problem referral. And so we ensure that they have that. The staff that work at the program have to have certification as a prevention specialist. and they have two different levels. They can be a certified prevention consultant, or they can be a certified prevention specialist, and they're really at just two different levels of expertise. Now, when we do have very specific programming, that requirement wouldn't be needed as long as a supervisor has it. So we have programming where a provider might do parent education classes. And so they use one of our evidence-based prevention classes. The staff is trained in that. And since that's the only prevention service that they do, they don't need the certification because it's just one service. But when we have our individuals who work with community coalitions, they do have that because they're doing a much broader, more in-depth service with the community. And then we have our providers use the statewide Michigan Prevention Data System for substance use disorder services. And that's where certain data is collected on who you serve, how many you serve, and what type of service is being provided, and what indicators are being matched. So we have some very specific areas that we focus on in prevention that are our main target areas. One being to reduce underage drinking. That's been a long-standing goal for us because we always look to keep our youth safe. We also have a goal to reduce prescription and over-the-counter drug abuse and misuse. We work to reduce underage tobacco use, and now there's a lot of emphasis on all the vaping products and e-cigarettes that go along with that. And there's also, our local focus is also on reducing youth and young adult marijuana use because that's been shown to be a high need in our community area. So as you can read there, there's a lot of different strategies and approaches and goals that go along with each of those. But those are the main focus areas and the things that we hope to achieve underneath each of them. We do have one other special requirement that's true of all of the state, and that's the SINAR requirement. And I kind of always laugh, we have so many acronyms in our field, but this is actually not an acronym. This is based on a person who put this into legislation. And so it follows that name. And this is a requirement that comes with all the federal substance abuse block grant dollars. And the goal there is that we have to ensure that we have less than 20% sale rate to underage youth. So, you know, anybody that is not of age to legally buy tobacco products, we have to do checks each year to make sure that that is not occurring. And there comes with it a great risk that if you go over that 20% sale rate statewide for more than 2 years in a row, you could risk 40% of your block grant funding as a state. So it's a pretty important requirement to be met. So we go about it in many different ways. We develop plans and implement goals about this. We do retailer education on the laws, how to check properly for ID, how to encourage people who are in positions to sell tobacco products to, you know, ensure that they're not selling to minors. We have what they call a designated youth tobacco representative who really oversees a lot of these activities, and we do that through a contracted provider. And then we do the vendor education activities, as I mentioned, as well as assign our checks, which is where youth go in with adult supervision and attempt to purchase tobacco products when they're not 18. They're not allowed to follow through on the sale so that they don't do anything illegal. And then we have to report back those findings. For us this year, I'm very happy to say we had 0 sales to minors on our check. That was very outstanding. And some of this, I'd like to say we've done such a terrific, wonderful job that we got to 0. Once in a while, it is sometimes based on luck. Because if, you know, just depending on that, the place that you go to and who was working that day, if they're not doing proper checks, it's likely that they could make a sale. But, you know, we've been doing quite well here in Macomb County for many years, and I think a lot of it has to do with the work we put up front into educating a lot of the retailers on the rules, the laws, letting them know about the fines that are involved and the importance of following through with those activities. So just to give you some ideas, prevention is based on a lot of that evidence-based information. And the federal guidelines have specific strategies of how you go about providing prevention services. So there's things like information dissemination, which is, giving out resources, providing materials. Somebody wants to know, what are some facts about marijuana? What are some facts about ecstasy, a particular drug category? So you give that information out. That might be one approach you use in your prevention to bring awareness and make people understand things about a substance. You can also do problem identification and referral. That's ways to help reduce barriers in the system. You can do things to educate and do skill building, and that is with a goal of keeping people from using a substance. So we do a lot of work with school-age children, preschoolers, all the way through high school with different approaches and different techniques so that we can raise awareness on the risk and dangers, also provide them with healthier choices. So part of the goal is to raise awareness and perception of harm so that we can reduce the risk of use. We also take community-based approaches to change community norms. Many of you may remember times where, you could go into a restaurant and, there was smoking everywhere you went. That had been a goal of the prevention strategy for many years, and slowly over time, I think they helped to make some influence, particularly at some local restaurants. And then of course we had laws over time that helped back that up. But those are just some of the larger community norms that they look to change. Now we do a lot of campaigning and things as it relates to safety and opiate use. So we're doing a lot of education and awareness. One of the things we do, for example, is we participate in all the DEA drug take-back days. And so we have our coalitions and our prevention leaders go and help participate in the take-back sites. So we advertise, promote, and let the community know and be aware this is the day where you can come and bring your unwanted and unused medication in to safely dispose of. We post the ongoing sites because many police stations and the sheriff's department have this available. And this year, the DEA take back, they really didn't know what to expect because of COVID. And we're shocked to find that they had their largest take back ever out of all the years that they've been doing the take back. So this year there was 4,372 pounds of unwanted medications in Macomb County that were disposed of properly. So that was a great effort, and a lot of work goes into helping promote these events, but keeping our community safe so that we can keep these hands out of the hands of children or others who, might not appropriately use the medication. So that's, just another example of a different strategy and approach that we do. And also like environmental, changing policies and procedures for the long-term effect, kind of help get in and help work with those. Dawn Radziak was very active with all the upcoming marijuana rules and laws and helping local communities understand their opt-in and opt-out rules, and just kind of helping raise awareness where they could get more information on things like that. So again, helping communities understand, make informed choices and decisions. Again, here are just some of the highlights under some of those particular categories. I've mentioned some already, but we do a lot of SBIRT training you might be familiar with, screening, brief intervention, and referral to treatment, and a lot of coalition work where groups in the community come together at a particular topic or area in need for their community and work together to help format ways to make their community healthier and safer. So again, just some other information for you there that you could take a look at. Just want to let you know, last year we served over about 46,000 people through prevention services. And that was over 12,400 hours of programming. Down from our typical year, the year before, before COVID, when we could get out into the community and reach more people, we served almost 70,000 people. So prevention is very active in our community, and I think very well respected and welcomed into a lot of different events. So I hope that gives you a little overview of the services that we do in our prevention area. It's a pretty far reaching and covers a lot of different topics, but just thought it might help you know some of the activities happening in that department.
Great, thank you, Helen. I have a couple of questions. There's been some advertisements I've seen on TV that apparently the health department, Macomb County Health Department is named as having the ad regarding, I think it's cannabis. Does that have anything to do with any of the things you described?
I'm not sure about that one in particular, but there have been funds given to the health department for different approaches. We worked with them last year on some of the opioid messaging that they were doing. So I'm not familiar with that one for sure. We do have, we work together with MPOP. That's used to be called Operation RX. It's now the Michigan Prescription Overdose. I'm not sure of our new acronyms. Right now, I don't have that one memorized yet. But the person for that group is housed at the health department. And so a lot of things come out through that as well. And you should be seeing some new Macomb advertising coming up pretty soon. Somebody told me they saw one of our opiate health home billboards out this past week. So, you know, we'll have a little bit more coming on that. And this year, the state gave us $4,000 to use for campaigns for the e-cigarettes, vaping products, the other forms of tobacco use. And so we're putting together a proposal where we'll suggest that we do a media campaign using some of the national materials that are out there.
Okay. The county, somebody else had called me today. I didn't see the ad. They also saw one by the county regarding vaping, pregnant women, things like that. I was just surprised. The one that I saw had the county logo on, but it didn't have CMH logo.
Right.
I was just surprised that they were doing it by themselves without it.
Yeah. The health department does have money for tobacco approaches. The quit smoking, that falls under the health departments.
Okay.
So I'm sure it's probably related to those dollars.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, they're on the coalition with our office as well on that topic.
All right. And then the other one you were referring to, I would call it a sting, but you try to see if businesses are selling to minors. And is that done in conjunction with the local police departments, or is that a different program?
That's a different program. The police do a different one where it is more of a sting. And with that one, if they do sell, there's fines imposed right at that time. Ours is not a legal approach. Ours is a compliance check.
Okay.
And so ours doesn't have any legal consequence if they were to make a sale. They would later on get a letter from us saying, you know, we had done a check on this particular day and, you know, your salesperson was willing to sell to a minor. However, you know, they stopped the purchase, you know, just kind of letting them know. And then we'd go in and offer more vendor education there. But ours doesn't have the strength of the legal side with the law enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't see any raised hands. Does anyone else have a question? Ryan and then Phil.
Thank you, Kathy. Helen, has the legal age of tobacco raised at 21? And if so, what impact have we seen?
So it's raised at the federal level, but it hasn't changed yet at the state level. So retailers are kind of caught in the middle. They're not really sure like what they need to follow. So more are being more conservative and following the 21 rule because it's a federal rule, but enforced in Michigan right now, it's still at the 18 only. So we're hoping to get that legislation updated to reflect the federal rules because, you know, the longer we can help postpone this, the less likely youth may use. And it's a lot harder to think that a 16-year-old's 21 than it is to think they're 18. So hopefully less sales to minors.
And Phil?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify some of your earlier questions with the marijuana money. We did get state money directly to the county health department for advertising for that. So that's why you see the county logo and not CMH. That was direct funds from the state to the health department. Thanks.
Always good to have a person right in our board who can answer those questions. Thank you. Anyone else? Well, thank you very much, Helen. Someone want to make a motion? Yes, and applause to you, and from Megan. Thank you. And I take that as Megan's motion to receive and file, and then Ryan is following with a support for
Support.
that, to receive and file her report. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? You've received your report. Thank you very much, Helen.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yes, you too. And next we have the CFO update by Richard Carpenter. If you'd like to go ahead, Dave, did you want to say anything before he starts?
Nope, we're all set. He's ready to go with the presentation.
All right, go ahead, Richard.
All right, so in front of us today, we have the September monthly finance report. Just a couple of highlights I wanted to go through. Trends for revenue and eligibility continue to be strong. Eligibility, we did see a spike in September. That spike again is related to the July, August, and September DCW payment received in September for those 3 months. Eligibility continues to be strong in the last few months of the year, stronger than it was a year ago, and also stronger than we saw at the beginning of the calendar year. So our revenue increases this year are a combination of both the additional eligibles, the additional DCW funding we've received, and a rate increase that we did get from the state back in April. So no surprises there really. In terms of comparing year over year for our balance sheet, we're in a very strong cash position compared to a year ago. A lot of this having to do with the additional revenue that we received. Receivables are relatively comparable as are other assets. Liabilities are down a little bit compared to last year. Similarly, due to state and employee payables are comparable. The result of all of this is that net position is anticipated to be up significantly. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the summary financial status report page in a moment. On to page 3, looking at revenue comparisons. Again, revenue from our capitation, which is our Medicaid and Healthy Michigan fund sources, up 36 million from last year, which is the vast majority of why we're showing such a large increase in cash and surplus revenue. Other areas are comparable. Provider services projected to be down about 6 million. A lot of that, if not all of that, related to supported employment services that really could not fully function for a good portion of the year this year. Resulting in a net income of 37 million, some of which we will have to return to the state based on our contract formulas. Looking at it by fund source then, our revenues and expenses, as we look at our Medicaid and autism combined, surplus of about 37 million in that fund source, surplus of 6 million in the Healthy Michigan fund source, and a surplus still in the state general fund source of 1.5 million. This is after the 236 transfer that the board approved and was completed in September. We've updated the estimated contribution and contract limitations for September. I did complete the interim financial status report that was due to the state earlier this month. And the contract limit based on the new form that they published is 17.36 million that can be held in the risk reserve and 17.36 million that can be held in Medicaid savings. So we are projecting at the end of fiscal year 2020, fully funded ISF, fully funded Medicaid savings for a total risk reserve capacity of 34.7 million. So exact kind of what we've been talking about every month. previously about where we anticipated being. So no real surprises from that perspective. The rest of the report is all the numbers that kind of feed into those graphs that we've discussed, but I'm happy to address any questions or concerns that the board may have this evening.
Okay, thank you. I see Selena.
Richard, last year we ended up with extra money and we ended up giving it away. When will we start meeting to start discussing spending this year to ensure that that doesn't happen again and start putting some, conversations on the table and some decisions that we're going to be making, because looking at these numbers, we could actually end up more favorable than we did last year. So when do you anticipate we start scheduling some of that to discuss what we're going to do with this money?
So I know that Dave and I have been actively discussing that every week that we have been meeting. And so I know that that is a group of people, because obviously I'll be bringing the financial information forward of what we're seeing, and then those that need to operationalize some of that. But I do believe the intent is to implement a monthly meeting specifically related to the GF fund source that you referenced, where we gave some of that money away, so that we can be managing that on a month-to-month basis of how much should we target to spend each month, and then reporting on how much we actually spent compared to that target, and then updating our plans accordingly. I think, I know Dave was planning on trying to pull those meetings together soon, and hopefully before the end of the year, we'll get that kicked off. Dave, do you have any additional updates on that?
Yes, through the chair. We will be looking and tracking the general fund expenses closer, along with some of the substance use services as well, because there has been a revenue reduction on the treatment side there. We have a number of RFPs that are being issued to expand our service delivery options and availability. The mobile health unit is, we have photos that went out in our newsletter today. The renovations are well underway. So that'll be a new program and an expansion for next calendar year. And we are focusing heavily right now on access to services in general, the timeliness of services, the call center availability. We have a new administrator in customer service. But Selena, that's an excellent question. And I will put all of our currently planned activities together in kind of a spending plan to the board. And I will share that with CAC as well. And then Helen will, I'm sure, have things for her advisory board as well. So yeah, I'll summarize that for our next meeting.
Thank you. I think that would be very helpful, so that the board can kind of see, because a lot of times we get asked questions in the community or from providers or people that we're serving. And that just kind of gives us an idea of what is going on. Do you anticipate putting together a small subgroup from the board to be advisors for these kind of things, or will you be doing it all internal and then reporting out to us?
I'm open. We're also looking at the data reports. So we'll be getting a much better idea about our growth areas, areas of need, gaps, if any. So yeah, we'll be much better informed going forward. But yeah, I would be happy to do actually, I used to do a program committee, and we have a program and budget committee. But yeah, we could do a subcommittee of that.
Because I would like to be involved if that's possible. I'd like to hear and kind of see it. I see it from the other side. And so I have feedback of what we're seeing in the community that might be a little bit different than what you guys might be seeing.
Yeah, now that you're saying it, I think board involvement, provider alliance involvement, CAC membership involvement, along with our staff would be a good vehicle to keep us on track going forward.
Kathy, I have a comment.
Yes.
You're going to budget monthly. This is already the second month, the end of the second month of this fiscal year. That's kind of incredible. But you're going to budget for spending the general fund money. Maybe as we go along, as requests are made or ideas appear, if you keep to the side maybe a wish list that's over and above what you think you're budgeting for. And then if we get caught flat-footed in June and July, we have a way of spending the money before the, not getting caught in the last month like we did last time.
Yeah,
So-
we learned some stuff this year about different, it's pretty limited as was explained in the board study session. But yeah, with some advanced planning, it will be much easier. I'll get those out on the calendar.
Along those same lines, Kathy, if I may.
Yes.
I think one of the things I'd like to see, in addition to Richard's work on showing us what's available, is areas where we've cut back before and needs that are being expressed from the different departments, so we can maybe help prioritize those needs. We'll probably not have, it looks like we're in pretty good shape financially, but we probably won't have enough resources to meet all the needs. But I'd sort of like to see a list of needs. Maybe that's the same thing as Linda's wish list for.
It was the data reporting will give us a good start in that area, but yeah, we'll get feedback from the community as well and staff.
Thank you.
Any other board members with a question or comments? Okay, motion to receive and file this report is in order.
So
Motion by
Support, Schmidt.
Stanfield, support by Schmidt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report is received. And the next is the CEO update by Dave.
Well, good evening, everybody. You've all met Stacy Coleman before, our Chief Compliance and Privacy Officer. We will be making compliance a routine agenda item, but we did have a compliance situation come up. So I'm going to ask Stacy to provide the board an update on that just ahead of my comments. So Stacy.
Good evening, everybody. Earlier in October, it was brought to the attention of Macomb County Community Mental Health that our drop-in program, otherwise known as Liberties North and South, had some financial issues. I was brought into a conversation relative to that, and with the assistance of our finance department, we were able to look into these matters, and it appears there were definitely some financial inconsistencies. I have been working with their bank relative to these inconsistencies and actually very actively with their board of directors. The drop-in centers are a peer run program, and the board of directors actually met, and Bruce Dutton has been providing some oversight for them since March, and Bruce has been very, very active in working with their board of directors. We also sought consultation from a group called JIMHO, which is the Justice in Mental Health Organization that operates drop-in centers and provides lots of consultation to the other 45 drop-in centers in the state of Michigan. We've been meeting with the board of directors for Liberties and also with JIMHO on at least a weekly basis. The board of directors terminated their executive director as a result of these financial inconsistencies. She was the executive director over both Liberties North and South. They also terminated the director of the one program. She was the director of the other. So both of those folks, their employment was terminated. In the meantime, when we were meeting with the board it was determined that the only way to continue for this program to operate was to essentially effectuate something like an emergency management order. This is a Medicaid covered service. We do have to provide it. We don't really have that much of an option. We had batted around the notion of closing it temporarily, and RFPing out all these types of things that could take upwards of a year, if not more. And we determined that it was a better bet in the midst of a pandemic, with the holidays coming, with the seasonal changes, that this drop-in center was well worth our options to actually essentially put them under the emergency management and allow them to continue operating with some increased oversight. We reached out to another CMHSP, St. Clair County, who had a similar issue. We are in receipt of their contracts, and I actually met with them a number of times about how it is they provide oversight. Our understanding with the drop-in centers was it was very hands-off. You literally cut them a check. It was peer operated. We didn't get to provide any oversight. We didn't really get to, we didn't audit on an annualized basis, but we didn't get to say much else. When we consulted with St. Clair County, they said, hey, it's really what the drop-in center will let you do in terms of oversight. The board was very willing to accept this emergency management concept for 6 months. They're very willing to look at these new contracts and to essentially allow us some increased oversight. And that is what we are doing. Bruce is providing consultation to the staff and the board basically on a daily basis. We again meet with them on a weekly basis. We will not know the disposition of the missing funds until approximately January. There were large cash withdrawals from the account, but because they were done by ATM, I contacted the bank with the cardholders on the account, and we filed a dispute of which was set in motion that the bank will actually pull those ATM cameras, and they will be able to tell us who was making those withdrawals. And then from there, we will make a determination whether it's a police matter, what type of matter. But essentially, we did want to make the board aware that this was going on relative to these programs, but we are continuing to operate them for the folks that we serve in the community. Did you have any questions?
Yes, Ryan?
How much is missing?
Okay, so cash missing is about $30,000 cash. Diane Mezen from finance has been doing just an amazing job, because what we realized, there were a lot of financial inconsistencies with checks and also electronic withdrawals. I mean, we went line by line and realized that there was a lot of additional monies that were missing, but there's approximately 30 to 35,000 missing in cash. On top of that, because all the cash was missing, they hit fees unbelievable. Just last month, their fees were $800 in bouncing checks. I give the staff there a lot of credit because they went 3 weeks without being paid. We really had to set up new bank accounts. We had to get the IRS letter. There were all kinds of things we had to do, but we were not comfortable putting money back in that account because we really didn't know where the money had gone. So Bruce assisted the treasurer with setting up new accounts. But the staff, we were able to get a deposit so we could pay the staff, but they went 3 weeks without pay. So that's how
Do we have an idea what happened to the money?
it was taken.
We don't know. Has the police been contacted yet?
So here's the thing, Ryan. I actually did extensive interviews. In their minds, there was only one person who had access to the ATM card, and that was the executive director. All right. These were all cash withdrawals. I can't say who took it. It's been completely denied. They have no idea. They say they have no idea where it came from. So that's why we filed the dispute with the bank. So we get that, then the police would be contacted. But the police, I mean, essentially, we weren't quite clear about bringing the police in at the time. We don't have anybody to point them to. We can say the money was stolen, but it very well may have been the director of the program or somebody affiliated with the program.
Is there do you need a motion from us to contact the police to start an investigation? I mean, I would like to see criminal restitution if possible. I don't know about the rest of the board.
I don't know that I need a motion. What I wanted to do was be able to bring this back to the board at the January meeting after I had the disposition from the bank, where it would show us who did it, and then we'd move forward from there.
Kathy, you're on mute.
Thank
I
you.
said your name. Did you read my lips? Selena.
Thank you. Ryan asked quite a few of the questions, and maybe you said it and I just had a memory lapse, but is this person that they believe had access to it, are they still employed there, or have they, so they're no longer there?
No, the board took action to terminate
Okay.
employment.
Okay, and so we're holding off on filing any type of charges until we get some more data?
Essentially, the bank has pulled all the ATM cameras. We can tell you what ATMs the money was taken from. We can tell you the time of day and all of those things, but the bank will actually have the video cameras to show us who withdrew the money.
Okay.
And the bank will also assist with filing charges because all of those charges have been disputed.
Got it.
Stacy or Kathy,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Is it, just out of curiosity, and I don't know if anybody actually even knows the answer to this question, but if the police were involved, could you get those videos quicker? Or?
I really don't know, and I hadn't gone down that path, Megan, to know that.
Okay.
I've got a concern along the lines of the other. Why do we solve the crime before we report it
Right.
to the police? I mean, can't the police be helpful in investigating the crime? I mean, if somebody robs my house, I don't go look to find out who the robber was before I call the police to let them know that my house has been burglarized. That somebody has stolen money, you think you've discharged, or you think they've discharged the person who did it, but you don't know who did it. It seems to me the police ought to be involved in the investigation. Rather, and I guess I don't understand why you're saying why there's a reluctance to bring law enforcement in.
We are working with legal, correct, Stacy?
We were bringing legal in. The thing about this too is that these are folks that are actually served by our program as well, as a result of being a peer-operated program.
Okay.
And what a lot of counties have done is when cases like this have been substantiated, they've actually allowed the folks to repay the funds instead of pressing charges against them.
Okay, that explains your reluctance. I understand.
That is my reluctance, that I don't want to see somebody arrested. It's not that we'd necessarily even get the funds back. That would be one of the options. When I reached out to Jim Ho, they said that is what has happened in many, many cases, that essentially.
But we have taken any steps to make sure no more money gets missing.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have, Bruce thankfully has done some great work with the board and with Jim Ho, that we now have a triplicate signing process for any check that goes out. There are no debit cards or bank cards allowed on the account anymore. They've got mobile banking that anytime money comes out, there are alerts. The thing was, it appeared that the situation was that there was not a lot of oversight at the program, that the executive director had hired a bookkeeper that was actually their daughter-in-law, and that was part of the issue.
Stacy, is the Board of Liberties Board of Peers as well?
It is, and we had brought Jim Ho in to do they had done some training with the board. They had rewritten the bylaws with the board. The board had been chosen by the executive director, and they were very reticent to dismiss her. But basically, we've really been relying on Jim Ho to assist us with providing guidance to the board, but they are meeting with the board at least weekly and and talking to them about what a board really looks like. They had done board training back in March to say, as a board member, here's your responsibilities. But at that point in time, I don't think that they had their voice yet. And I think that they're getting it now. They're now starting to understand that being a board member has some responsibilities associated and tied to it as well. And I don't think they really got that until we said, here's our option. We're going to have to close down your program because it was mismanaged, or we can really step up, and they've done that. They're becoming very involved.
Kathy, I have a question.
Yes, Linda.
Was there a credit card involved? Are there any irregular charges on a credit card that, in addition to the cash at the ATM?
There was a debit card to the account, and there are regular charges. There were also checks written that were irregular.
In what amount is that are you talking about?
It all adds. The thing is, it's hard to ascertain. We look for patterns relative to the electronic. Large bills at Costco and places like that, because they provide food, would not necessarily be irregular, but we didn't see the receipts for those because our audit wouldn't have been due until April. We've since been able to do a lot of reconciling. Diane Mezen, again, has done a fantastic job going through the receipts, looking at what those expenses have been. There were irregularities.
The authorizations for those credit cards have been secured as well?
Well, we've actually closed that account.
You closed that account, okay.
We closed it to the extent that there's no money in it. And the only reason we kept it open at all was so that we could get a copy of that report, because the bank was very difficult to deal with. They wouldn't let us close the account, take her name off of it without the original IRS letter from 30 years ago. They were very difficult to work with, so we chose a new bank, but we wanted access to that report, and we didn't feel they'd be compelled if we didn't still have an account with them to give it to us.
But you've disputed any irregularities that you've identified, and you, to the extent you've been able to, some you may not have, and you have eliminated the ability to use that card as a debit card.
Correct. What I did was, because our names are not on the account, so I technically couldn't dispute anything. I drove over the next day and met with the executive director, got on a conference call with her, and had her dispute 48 of the items on those accounts from the items I saw. All the cash withdrawals, ones that were really odd that didn't make a lot of sense. So we disputed 48 of them within 24 hours.
Good, thank you.
Okay. I need to turn the meeting over to our vice chair, Phil Kraft, because I have to attend Chesterfield Township Board meeting at 7 o'clock, and I have to zoom into that. So Phil, could you please take over?
That's what you get for being reelected, Kathy.
Right, and that's what you get for scheduling a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday meeting, so.
Congratulations, Kathy.
Congratulations.
All right,
Yes.
thank you. All right, goodbye.
Hi, Kathy. I thought we mutually agreed to a hard stop at 6:55 no matter what.
I'm good. I'll keep my report brief.
Dave, go ahead and finish your report. Thank you, Stacy, for yours.
I do need to thank Stacy. There was a lot of time and effort that went into that investigation. She did mention Bruce. I think Bruce is on our call tonight. He's from our clubhouse program, and I had actually reached out to him ahead of this, and he's been working with them, and he's really stepped up his technical assistance to the people that are now in that program. The folks at the state have been helpful in guiding us through this, and we did report to them right away. And Diane Mezen, Stacy mentioned as well, for bringing this to our attention and doing a lot of the follow-up detail work as well. So thank you, everybody, for that. Guess I wanted to start by wishing everybody a happy and isolated Thanksgiving holiday. Our staff and all of the staff within our provider system just continue to do phenomenal work to the service of the people of Macomb County. The ripple effects of the pandemic continue to spread. They're impacting everybody in numerous ways, but we're essential. The workers are out there every single day, and we're getting the job done, helping our community. With the COVID cases increasing, we continue to communicate with our frontline providers, with the state of Michigan and other community-based organizations to best support the people we serve now or who may need our help in the future. I've given this plug before, but we are collaborating with Michigan Stay Well hotline. They provide free, anonymous, it's confidential, no cost counseling. I believe it's 3 to 4 sessions of brief therapy. The phone is 888-535-6136. They can also help refer you to the people to local resources if additional help is needed. The number of people served via our CCBHC program is increasing. The case to care management training that was approved by the board is now scheduled. The spots are being filled up now. And I did mention before, our mobile health unit renovations are coming along nicely. And we are still on target for January to have it back here locally. We'll do the wrap on that, and we'll be working to look at the programming that will allow us to do in our community as well. I also mentioned some RFPs that are coming out. We are looking at those expansions, and I will get the subcommittee meeting scheduled to look at basically like a spending plan that would work along with the program side as well. At the state level, we'll be welcoming, I'll get some drafts out to the new legislators, to the Macomb caucus, and reaching out to our new members at the Board of Commissioner level as well. So lots of changes in place at those levels. I was off for 6 days. The team did a phenomenal job in covering in my absence. It's very clear that I am not essential, except for the signatures and stuff and all of those government websites that I was able to keep current with as well. So thank you, everybody. I hope there's some happiness to the holidays and that everybody stays safe. And I'll end my remarks there, Phil.
Thanks, Dave. Any questions or comments for Dave from board members? Brian, go ahead.
You saved me. Hey, Dave, would it be possible to send out an email with that contact information with that group?
Yes, for the Stay Well, yes. Happy to do that. We are getting hard copy resources as well. We'll be distributing those into the community along with some of our stuff. Linda?
I'm just reminded that Stephanie with My Strength, what's Stephanie's last name?
Lang.
She did a workshop at my library, and the people who attended are just so impressed. They signed up for My Strength. Lori Phillips was on the workshop also, and it was just a wonderful presentation. And the My Strength app is so helpful to people in a time like this, that maybe we could have a presentation from her. She does a great job, her PowerPoint, and for people to know how easy it is to sign up and what the resources are there. They send you these little, these are dark, dreary, horrid news days. You got it, right. So it's just an incredible, really, really is an incredible asset. It's been very helpful to me personally.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah, and thank you for the connection to the library collaborative. We did meet with them, with the entire collaborative. We'll be sharing our information, and they did give real positive feedback on the My Strength presentation as well. Lori?
Yeah, I just wanted to say too, that was an excellent presentation. And I've gone on and shared it with one of the social workers at one of the schools I was working at. Just go ahead and share because I think it would be help with whether they're the student trying to work with it or the staff themselves right now. So I believe he was looking into trying to get somebody to come maybe and give a Zoom on one of their PE days or something on how to use this. So, cause I'm impressed with it. Not as much as Linda does, but I do check in.
And it's free. It's absolutely free. It's just really, I've known about it, never used it, probably because of the kind of learner I am. So hearing about it at meetings and actually having my fingers in the app was a much different experience. And so it's been good.
Yeah. I keep saying, we have to take care of ourselves in order to take care of other people.
Right.
These are incredibly stressful times. So yeah, any of those free resources are very good to share with friends, family, colleagues.
Anyone else? All right, I'll take a motion to receive and file Dave's report.
Motion.
Motion from, I think, Nick, support from Lori. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm not opposed to for
Stop it. The report's been received.
They got there late.
All right, other possible agenda items, a couple reminders. We have a recipient rights committee meeting Thursday, December 3rd at 8 a.m. Program and budget is going to be Wednesday, December 9th at 6 p.m. And then 1 week later is going to be the full board meeting, December 16th at 6 p.m. Are there any other board members with any other possible items? All right, seeing and hearing none, we will move on to hearing of the public. Anybody from the public wishing to speak? You have 5 minutes. Give us your name and address. Make sure you take yourself off mute. Anybody wishing to speak? Anybody wishing to speak going twice? Third and final call for hearing of the public.
Phil, Bruce has his hand raised.
I don't see that. Bruce, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just went to Bruce Dunn, Director of Crossroads Clubhouse. Just wanted to say thank you to Brian on our board for thinking about Crossroads and hooking us up with some really, really nice business chairs. And so I just want to put that on the record that he hooked us up with that along with Mr. Pankatai. And thank you very much for that, Brian. Appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. Anytime I can help, I will.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Brian. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Dave, am I missing anybody?
I do not see any other hands or.
All right. With that, we will close hearing of the public and I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion from Selena,
Support, Philip.
support from Lori. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned. Everybody.